Hello, hello. Welcome to your Monday edition of whatever this is. Going to talk about most of the games on the main board today, and if I have time, I will go into some of the added board games. So, obviously, to start off, we lost the game with Virginia and Northern Iowa because of the shooting. That's obviously expected, considering that it happened on fucking campus. And I'll say this, I did get on the under, had some good CLV. That doesn't necessarily mean a win, but I'm not very happy to see the bet be canceled. So, um, hold on one second. I just got a cough. All right. Going into Tennessee Tech and Marshall, it's a spot that I liked when it opened, but now we've seen a 2.5 to 3 point line move from 152.5 to 155. I think Marshall is going to continue to up the tempo like they did against Queens College. But I'm just worried about laying this type of number with them when they couldn't even go out on the road and get it done. So I do like the fact that they brought in Camby Kerfman. I think that he's going to be a solid player and gives this offense that three-headed monster or three-headed dragon that they need. They got to have three scoring options. I like the fact that Coach D'Antoni had enough confidence in Jacob Connor to be like, listen, like this kid is going to be fucking responsible with what shots he's going to take. He's going to go for high percentage looks most of the time. And what did he do? He was very successful getting those high percentage looks. Now, I do worry about the fact that they're not going to play a very deep roster, but if you don't have the trustable talent, don't run it out. You got a bunch of upperclassmen that can play heavy minutes, and I expect them to continue to do so. Now, Andrew Taylor's got to freaking fix his shooting. Obviously, 5 for 13 from inside the arc is not what we want to see, but don't get it twisted. Marshall's never been that good of a three-point shooting team. So the work that they do is inside the arc, get into the free throw line, and they got to do more of that tonight if they want to cover a spread like this. I think we're going to see points. I think we're going to see tempo. That's the way that I look at it. Georgia and Miami, Ohio. Now, we saw this total open up at 148.5. It's down to 140. Makes it unplayable in my estimation, unless you're taking an over. And I'm just not going to do that. So I think that with Georgia, not a team that I trust to cover spreads, whether they're a favorite or a dog. I think that outside of freaking Matthew Alexander Moncrief, there isn't anything that is going to hold me loyal to this team and to this program's supposed freaking rise that they're going to find under Coach White. Mike White's a bad coach. I don't care what anyone says. I don't like him. I don't support him. I think that his teams are classic underachievers. And I'm really hoping with how much mid-major talent is on this roster, that's not the case. But I will not be laying 13 points with them, even against the Miami, Ohio team that pretty much is – they know their freaking fate. It's to get beat by a lot of teams. There just isn't enough offensive fucking firepower there to be able to compete and be able to stay – close in a lot of games. I just don't think so. So unless they're going to be able to improve their three-point shooting and get to the free throw line a shit ton more and have some balance there outside of freaking Mirambo and Makai Larry getting there, I just don't know. So if you were to put a gun to my head and said, Max, give me a play on this game or you're never going to fuck a high-end hooker again, I would take Miami, Ohio plus 13, but it's just because I refuse to bet money on Mike White's teams covering or staying close in games when it's not expected. All right, Florida Atlantic. Listen, I think Florida had a pretty good wake-up call against Kennesaw State in that last 5 minutes of that game. They were winning comfortably. They got lackadaisic, and Kennesaw almost fucking gave them quite a bit of scare. I think that deficit at the time that I was watching was 22, went all the way down to 10. So it was a crazy performance for them. I think that there's still a lot of freaking figuring out of who's going to play with who's going to play when going on. So I think that the main thing I want to see from Florida is just a shorter rotation. Todd Golden's a great coach. We saw what he did in San Francisco. I think that he is going to do good things with this Florida roster. He's got some great ball handlers in St. Bonaventure, point guard Kyle Lofton. So when you have a guy that can play a lot of minutes for you, you got to utilize him. Now, Colin Castleton, it just looks really easy for him to score against college players. So I would be looking at Colin Castleton to add to your prize picks tonight. That's how I would look at it. I think that Florida covers the spread. I think Florida first half is also a good number. So if you can get seven or under for Florida on the first half, I would take that also. But I think Florida has a bit of a freaking waking up, and I think that Florida Atlantic feels the pain. So big thing with Florida Atlantic is what's the status of Michael Forrest? Is Michael Forrest playing? Michael Forrest not? If he's not playing, then I think that Mississippi game is repeated, but it's definitely a little by a couple more points. So I just think that Florida needs to shorten that rotation, play their key guys for longer periods of stretch. And I think that they'll be able to cover that number, but not my favorite pick on the board whatsoever because it has moved, I think, 2.5 points. So Troy versus Florida State. Now, I just don't know how much more money you can start sinking into this Florida State team that just keeps on fucking up. Like they were supposed to have their situational rebound game against UCF. Now they're back at home, and I'm still tempted to take them on the first half at least. But I won't take them full game at 9.5. I just won't do it. So for me, this would be Florida State first half, probably just half of your normal wager, just because they haven't given us a reason to believe. With Matthew Cleveland and freaking Caleb Mills, right then and there, you should be able to get 40 points out of that combination. And if they're not taking the shots to do so, well, let's freaking knock on old man Hamilton's head and let's freaking straighten them out, like straight up. This is a Florida State team that I had high aspirations for going into the year from a betting perspective. And when you pick up Darren Green from UCF and then you go to UCF and lose, that is just a killer. Like, you can't blame it on Gainey and Baba Miller both being injured. There are freaking bodies that should be able to sub in. Maybe they get Chandler Jackson back tonight. That would definitely help the scoring, even though he's a true fresh. It's just a fucking scary situation of what they're doing down there. So I hope that we can get some good minutes out of guys like Cameron Corrin and Jalen Worley and Cam Fletcher. But I just don't know. I just don't know about this Florida State team. They can't shoot a three. They're not hitting 50% from the field. They're not hitting their free throws. Like when you're talking about Matthew Cleveland, when you're talking about Caleb Mills, both missing multiple free throws in games and times when you need them the most, it's like, fuck. So what I worry about for people that want to back Florida State full game is that Florida State gets out to a lead. It's still not big enough to not have some extended fouling for a couple minutes. And then they go 1 for 2, or they go 0 for 2, or they miss a freaking front end of a 1-and-1. That is something that is possible in this game if Florida State is in the lead. And if they're not, then the full game is torpedoed anyways. So it's just a tough fucking game. You just don't know what to expect with such a depleted front court for Florida State. All right, George Washington and Hofstra. I'm a believer in this Hofstra team, even though it clearly does not have the talent of last year. I don't know. I just think that at home, this team definitely plays a lot more confident, a lot faster, and they've shown already that they can come back from a deficit. Now, I don't need to talk about Aaron Estrada. The only thing that I need to talk about his game is the fact that I just think that he could be a better defender at 6'3" with his freaking wingspan. And with him not shooting the three well, it's something that needs to freaking happen because Dubar's done a fantastic job inside the arc. Tyler Thomas, the Sacred Heart transfer, has done a great job from the three-point line. You have Jack Juan Carlos coming on pretty strong, playing some heavy minutes. Like, all the guys that are playing key minutes that you need to score are doing it. They're hitting threes. They're doing really well inside the arc, and they're hitting 75% plus free throws. I don't know why they don't fucking smack George Washington tonight. George Washington looked good against Howard, but are we really saying that George Washington can come in outside of James Bishop and freaking Brendan Adams? I don't trust freaking Maximus Edwards and Quasi Samuels to give you offensive production. You know, I don't see a prolific three-point shooter, so they're going inside the arc. And if you can guard those two levels and keep this team off the free throw line, then you can beat them by margin. And the fact is, you have to keep them away from the rim because that's what George Washington has done well. Obviously, it's a small sample size, and it's only really one game against a non-D1 opponent, against a D1 opponent. But when you watch that George Washington second half versus Howard, which is something I did, I noticed them being able to play good with they being able to play good 3-point defense, better than the first half. And they said, fuck going to the 3-point line. We're going to go inside until they freaking take that away from us and then just kick it out. And then you saw them dropping threes. I just think that this George Washington team is not going to be able to do that against Howard. Don't forget, Howard missed so many open threes, free throws, bad turnovers, bad shot selection. I don't see Hofstra doing that with a better skill level, more experience, and they're at home where they play their best basketball. So Hofstra first half for me. I like Hofstra's team total. I think they score 80 points. And, you know, I'll wait till the half or live to jump on full game. But I do see myself betting on Hofstra to at least a second half play or a live full game play. All right. DePaul in Minnesota. So Nick Ogenda is not going to play. That's already been ruled out, but this is a tough Minnesota team for me to figure out. They absolutely destroyed St. Francis. Western Michigan played them to a T and almost beat them. And Western Michigan just got destroyed by Valparaiso yesterday. So when I look at this DePaul Minnesota game, from a personnel perspective, I think that DePaul not having their best big men definitely hurts, considering all the freaking players that they lost last year. But this team can be very perimeter oriented if they choose. They were really efficient against Western Illinois, hitting close to 50% from the three-point line. But the way that they were able to get to the rim and set screens and just drive, you know, you saw at a point Western Illinois just was not contesting it. Like, they were guarding it, but they weren't guarding it to the point of giving them and one opportunities. And with DePaul, my big concern is, can they bring that three-point defense once again onto the road? You know, playing at home, it's different. I think that with sight lines and lighting and just comfortability of knowing your spots, that plays a factor in the first couple games of the season, especially your first road game. I don't understand why it went from Pick'em to 1.5. When it went from Pick'em to 1.5, that sealed the deal for me. I decided to jump on Minnesota. I think Minnesota is going to win on home court. Listen, when you look at their three-headed monster, that's what they need to get going. Don't worry about shooting threes. Play three-point defense, chase teams off the three-point line, and use your offensive rebounding domination to score those easy high-percentage buckets. Now, when you look at Dawson Garcia, this is a guy that's got to play more minutes, and if he has any kind of lingering injury right now, that's a big problem for me. Because his low block scoring is something that I don't see being replicated on this roster. I like how Minnesota can get to the free throw line, take care of the basketball, limit their fouls, and take high percentage shots, because getting to the rim is an easy way for them to score. It's an easy way for them to score with the clock stopped. I think Minnesota wins tonight. Their roster doesn't impress me, but I have to watch more of them. And when you have Tajon Cooper with his experience, that's the key for me. Good point guard play, limit those turnovers in the half-court offense, and be able to dominate on the offensive defensive glass. Without freaking DePaul's best big man, I think it's possible tonight to see Minnesota do that. So I'm going to roll with Minnesota and, Taylon Cooper. I was just like 5 Coopers. Sorry, my bad. I just think that Minnesota's going to be able to roll tonight at home. If this was at DePaul, then I'd be like, yeah, sure. The only person that shouldn't agree with me on this pick is Tony Patelis, because obviously he loves DePaul, but they're going to lose tonight. Go Minnesota. Go first. All right. Let's move it on. Western Illinois and Central Florida. This is a spot where if I jump on anything, I think that I want to jump on the over. It's not a spot that I'm really high on. I think that if you want action on the game, maybe you look for freaking UCF to continue what they did to Florida State. But that was a pretty big program win, even with the freaking front court depletion, I'd call it. I still think UCF is a little overrated. I'm not really into this game. If I were, I would just take UCF first half and see what the gameplay is, because Western Illinois challenged DePaul with Trenton Massner having a bad game. So when you could do that, that's impressive to me at least. From a UCF roster perspective, I just think that with Walker coming back, I thought that it wasn't going to be that big of a deal, but I think that it was. I do like the addition of CJ Kelly. Just need to get him to stop shooting threes, because he's been able to drill a lot of freaking shit inside the arc. It's just when he goes out to the three-point line, it's just not dropping right now. I will say this. Taylor Hendricks has been very impressive. I look for him to keep on getting those minutes, and as long as he understands that he's got to go dunk the ball, go freaking put it on the freaking back glass. Like, that's what he's got to do the most. If he's going to be a three-point shooter, that's nice in the first half, but in the second half, you want him taking those high percentage shots. And he has a very good knack, at least early on in the season, for freaking nailing those. So I think that this is a real interesting UCF team come conference season to back as an underdog, but I'm not really looking to jump on them as a 15-point favorite. All right, Portland and Kent State. Now, everyone's talking about about Portland not having Chris Austin, but they haven't had Chris Austin all year, so I don't understand why that matters. This is a Portland team that is definitely a team last year with a similar makeup and the same coach, a team that won some money for people as a dog in situational spots like this. Now, they are coming off a very emotional game against Portland State. I still think that they can go into Kent State and even win this game. They're a very good team, and they're coached into a very good system. Obviously, with Mike Meadows, he's on the ball and off the ball, depending on what Tyler Robertson's doing. He's the key piece for them. Moses Wood, who I thought wasn't even on the team, is on the team doing big things. And he's another guy that, even though he's a fourth-year junior, he looks like scoring against Division One athletes is a little easy for him. And I think that with him and his 3-point shooting and his ability to hit free throws and Tyler Robertson's ability to get to the free throw line like crazy, it just bodes well in a game where you need Kent State to win by 2 3-point shots. So just based off the fact that Portland's going to extend this game if they get down, if it gets late, I think that those free throws are the big difference maker. This is a team that is not going to they're not going to be shy about putting up threes, but if they're not dropping, they're going inside, and they got just multiple pieces that are efficient, effective from all three levels. So where you can narrow in on a guy on Kent State, you can't really narrow in on that many guys on Portland because there are just other guys that can have those freaking standout games, those freaking standalone freaking alpha spots. And on the road, I think that we got to give them at least a little bit of credit. Now, with Kent State, if you can stop Sincere Carey, then you can really put a kibosh to anything that Kent State wants to do. But Kent State was pretty dominant in that Northern Kentucky game. It still is ringing in my memory. And when you see how dominant they were from the 3-point line, chasing guys off, closing out without 3-point, closing out without fouling. Sorry, hold on. It was just really impressive to see. And I think that this team has to play under basketball if they want to win this game, and they want to win this game by margin. But it's easier said than done to slow down this Portland team. They just run on you on makes. They run on you on misses. If you apply full court pressure, they can break it, and then they can still score easy buckets or get open corner threes. It's just a bad proposition, and to me, it seems like a bad matchup. So Sincere Carey's got to be the key cog for this team. His 3-point shooting has been very good to start the season, including the non-D1 opponent that they played. I think that with the one issue that I have for Kent State is can they make free throws in the second half? If that isn't the case, then Portland has another tick box on my list of freaking factors that lead me towards them. It just, I wish that I was getting 7.5 or 8, but I still like it at 5.5 or 6. I think this is a close game. And if it is a close game, Portland's the team that you want to be backing because they make their free throws. And Kent State has shown that some of their key guys can't do that. So it's going to be a good game. Definitely have one of its own screens dedicated to tonight. But the next game is even more interesting. That's Richmond and Charleston. We've had heavy line move on the total from 147.5 to as high as 152 or 153. Now we're getting some buyback. We've seen Richmond go from a 4.5-point favorite to a 3-point dog or 3.5-point dog. So it's just a crazy game. It just matters when you got in and when you got out. A wise person recently told me that I need to stop worrying about Charleston on the spread and just fucking hit their overs. So I hit the first half over, full game over. I think that those are the best plays. Richmond has to score, has to play Charleston's tempo if they want to win this game. I just don't think they're going to be able to slow Charleston down. With this Pat Kelsey team, it's Winthrop basketball, and they just go for high percentage looks. They go to the rim so often. I just don't see Richmond being able to slow them down at home. If this was a change of venue, if this was a neutral court, then yes, I would be like, okay, fine. There's a better percentage of them freaking slowing Charleston down. I don't think Charleston has a letdown from competing against UNC and losing. I just think that they have to get out to a good start, get high percentage looks, and get freaking Ray lots of 3-point shots because he's been their best 3-point shooter. Simply put, I don't think it's that difficult of a game plan. So you're going up against a team that lost program generational players, and now they're just going to freaking adapt. Now, don't get me wrong. I like what they've done so far. That Northern Iowa game was very nice. The way that they were able to lock down defensively midway through the first half, take away good 3-point looks, really contest stuff, and take away what Northern Iowa did best was beat you from the 3-point line. Now, I did have some concerns about forcing turnovers, but if this is going to be a defense that's not as aggressive, just stays home and freaking closes out and gives that help defense when needed, I can live with that. But when you watch Richmond basketball, you expect a lot of steals, a lot of aggressive on-ball defense, especially when it comes to the guards. I don't think we're going to see that with this team, at least yet. I like the size that they have. I like the Canadian element of Matt Grace. I just think this is a bad matchup for them. I think Charleston wins. All right, let's move on. Wofford and Drake. I like Drake first half and full game. I don't think that this is a Wofford team that can compete with them if Drake is controlling tempo. If this is going to be an up and down game like the High Point game for Wofford, they have a much better shot because they're going to get a ton of 3-point looks, and that's how they were able to even stay in the game whatsoever. But eventually in the second half, those shots stopped dropping. I think that with Drake is a very interesting team because they got everybody back last time out except Roman Penn. And with Roman Penn, this is a very good, seasoned, capable, savvy, good court vision point guard. Not a guy that you want to be missing. And even though it was against IUPUI, I was very impressed with his replacement in Connor Enright. Now, Connor Enright is definitely a guy I don't want to see playing 30-plus minutes a game the whole season. But right now, until you get Roman Penn back, I'm okay with it. He impressed me the first time out. Now, can he do it against a better level of competition in Wofford? We're going to see. But with Sardar Calhoun, like I said, he's a guy that can hit 6 threes in the game. Well, I was a little short on that. He went 4 for 6 from 3. Get him corner shooting opportunities, and you're going to get 3-point makes from this kid. Plain and simple. So, at home, I love Drake. I think first half full game are good plays on them. And as far as the under, I'm on the under, but I'm not feeling that great about it. My unders haven't been doing that good. All right. When it comes to the next game, it's the shirt that I'm wearing, Houston Cougars. Listen, it's a play that you just hit. Houston first half. Houston full game. It's just nothing else to do. Obviously, if you bet the under, good for you. You got fucking 5 points of CLV right now. I wish that I did. I just spaced on that. I think that Oral Roberts is going to have a hard time getting second chance opportunities versus this Houston front court. And with Jarris Walker, he's good. He's really good. He's really good. This kid is confident. He's got a fucking big body, and he is not afraid to go coast to coast, even as a true fresh. I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's going to be really good for Houston and really good for us as backers. Now, Houston was able to win that game against St. Joe's by what, like fucking 26 or something? And they only went 5 for 26 from 3. So when I think about that they could score that many points inside the arc, it's just like, wow. Yeah. Take away the 3-point shot from Houston, they'll still beat you by 20. That's a team that I want to back as a big favorite. And I want to back them at home. And I want to back them against a team that they have history against. Plus, if they don't get amped up for Oral Roberts, who wants to come in there and surprise the world tonight and beat them, which we have seen Houston slip in the non-conference and get that first loss before, yeah, not with this team. Nope, not with this team. This team is good on the glass. No, I won't say as dominant, but when you got like a guy like freaking Jawan Roberts that everyone forgets about, killing it inside the arc, getting to the rim whenever he wants, and scoring and defending at a high percentage. Yeah, there's a lot of weapons humming right now. And Marcus Sasser, when he goes up against these premier guards like he will in Max Asmus tonight, that's when you see him pop off for 7 threes. I want one of those games tonight. I want one of them. So if need be, Houston can go fucking deep into the freaking bench when it comes to forwards. And Coach Sampson has done a fantastic job of amassing talent. And freaking with Jaw Francis and fucking Reggie Chaney, you got two guys that if your top guys get into foul trouble, you can sub those guys in and you lose nothing on the glass and on the defensive end. So I'm impressed with what this Houston team is capable of. I think that if they come out and put Oral Roberts down the way that St. Mary's put North Texas down last night, then yeah, Houston Cougars, baby. Cougars. Yeah. All right, we're doing good for time. Still got 14 minutes. Idaho State and Utah. Now, this is a spot where Utah has not allowed 50 points yet this year. I think that they continue this spread domination, but I do think that we get a little more scoring. Idaho State was very good in a slow down, gross game to watch versus BYU. I don't know if they can get that type of game versus this freaking Utah team, just because with Craig Smith coaching them, they are going to run a lot. He said they want to run. They are going to run. And if you can't match those bucket for buckets over those 3 or 4 minute stretches that guys are running, then you're in trouble. Bakersfield had that exact thing happen to them. Now, what I'm betting against tonight is just a little slip up in 3-point defense and a little slip up inside when it comes to giving up some offensive rebounds. That was the one thing that Bakersfield was able to do at a reasonable, respectable rate. I'm not sure if they do that again tonight, but I think that Idaho State could score 56, 57 points. So Utah, definitely, I have to back them. I have to continue backing them. They beat LIU by 40. They beat Bakersfield by freaking 26 or 28. Can't remember the exact score. But I like this group, It's hard for me to say I like a freaking Pac-12 team, but there's a lot of Mountain West players on this Pac-12 team. Gabe Madsen comes from the American. Raleigh Worcester comes from fucking Mountain West. There's just a lot of interesting pieces. And the most impressive part about it is pretty much they're getting guys started well early in the season that they need to. And anybody that's in a slump pretty much has a lot of competition at their position for those minutes. So even though Mike Saunders isn't hitting his threes, he's still doing everything else well, taking care of the basketball, being aggressive on defense, being able to hit his free throws and hitting his inside this mid-range shot, which is something that you need to be able to do at this level, not necessarily the NBA, but in college for sure. I think Utah is a really good-looking team that I think is flying under the radar. So throw Ben Carlson and Brendan Carlson. You got good size there. Obviously, with fucking Brandon, he's the leader of this team. But there's some good players. And if they get Marco Anthony back at any point, that's another boost. That's another ball handler. So Utah's a good team. I just hope that they give up 57 points and don't keep another team under 50 tonight. If they do, I will be live betting that fucking team total, and I will be making a profit one way or another. All right, Louisiana Tech and Texas Tech. I got nothing on it. I don't have a bet on that game. Northern Colorado and Baylor. Listen, I bet Baylor before this freaking crazy line move. I think that it's definitely possible given Northern Colorado's lack of serviceable size inside and the fact that there's going to be a lot of 3-point shots taken by Northern Colorado. They have to shoot threes and hit threes. Baylor, we know they're going to hit threes. Just a matter of how fast do they start hitting those threes. Keontae George, he's the real deal. He is quite fantastic. Saw him play in Toronto at Maple Leaf Gardens, and he's just that good. He can freaking get that three off with no questions asked. He is cold-blooded when it comes to it. He knows that every shot that he takes is going in. Now, obviously, I want to see him just have a huge game tonight, but there are so many other options. I like what Dale Bonner in limited minutes has been able to provide. He's playing 20 a game, but he's giving you that three-point shooting that you need when you got to rest one of these other guys. I think that the biggest question mark for me is just who's going to emerge as the best front court scorer. I think that there's a lot of freaking capability for freaking Ojowana. He definitely has shown me a thing or two about his ability, but his free throw shooting is just something that makes me mad. If he's going in to dunk the ball or lay the ball in, then I'm good with that. But this is a good Baylor team. I think they're only going to get better as the year goes, and Keontae George and Adam Flagler are one of the most dangerous combinations that you can have. Then throw in LJ Cryer once he fixes three-point shot. Yeah, this is a dangerous Baylor team. I think they win this game big. I rather bet overs in the game than the number at 28. I think first half over was 72. That was a good number for me this morning. And with Northern Colorado, you just have to hope that they can score enough to help this total. Yeah. All right, let's move it along. This is probably my favorite game of the day, IUPUI Chicago State. I took IUPUI team total under full game. I think I got 62. This is definitely a spot where Chicago State should win. It's not like this team didn't get a major upgrade in freaking talent this year than they did last year. This is a much better Chicago State team, even though power rankings don't say so. I think that when you look at what they have and who they played, going to St. Thomas and losing by 20, that's respectable in my eyes. It's a tough team to play. It's a tough place to go and win because they're just so good offensively. They take you out of your rhythm and they really stunt your confidence. I think that at the end of the day, though, Chicago State is not a team that I can trust laying 7 points with. I have to watch the game, bet the game live, but I would put Chicago State money line in a parlay. They're going to win this game. If they don't, I'm going to be quite ashamed of myself. Obviously, with Jashawn Corbett not shooting the three very well, the only guy that you can really rely on to hit those threes is Dayton transfer Elijah Weaver. I think that once these guys figure out how to get their shot off and how to get a good shot off, guys like Bryce Johnson, Wesley Carnett are going to be able to produce for Chicago State. Right now, the only thing that I can do with this game is under full game, IUPUI team total under, and then look to put Chicago State in a money line parlay and hope that they're not the ones that bust the parlay. So, all right, Penn State and Butler. This is a crazy line. We've seen it go from 13 to 6. Makes it unbettable unless you're betting Penn State. We saw the line go from freaking 141 to 135 up to 144.5. So it's the same deal there. The total's unbettable to me. I won't touch that total, but I think that Penn State first half, that is definitely a play that I'm interested in because when I look at this Penn State team, I thought that they were going to be a little more defensive, but they have not been. I think that the key for them is getting continued production out of Andrew Funk. Andrew Funk was a killer when he was at Bucknell. Cam Winter was a killer when he was at Drexel, a fucking straight up floor general. And now you got freaking Miles Dredd hitting his fucking threes. 61%, already 8 makes on the year. That's a big fucking number. And if they can keep on scoring this way, it just takes the pressure off Seth Lundy, who misses a ton of free throws, but makes up for it by hitting 50% of his three-point shots. Like, this is a very interesting experience starting five. And I just think that we're going to see continued production out of it, at least tonight. Butler's good, don't get me wrong. With Manny Bates coming over there, that's a big addition, and that's a really good addition for Butler. I'm just not sure that Thad Matta is going to get freaking all the rest of his weapons humming at the same time. You looked really good against New Orleans, but you may not have Ali, who you do need in this game, and you had nobody that could hit a fucking three. That just screams bad news to me, and Penn State may fucking roll. So right now with the line at 5.5, I would be down for Penn State full game, but I'm definitely getting on Penn State first half so I can see the game, and then I know what to do when it comes to halftime. Santa Clara and Utah State. Now, this is a scary game for me just because, like, this kid, Brandon Podziemski for freaking Santa Clara is fucking fantastic. 2 30-point games to start his career. It's just insanity. You know, if you get a third one tonight, they are fucking winning this game outright. They've put up a ton of threes. They've made a ton of threes. They put up a ton of shots. They've made a ton of shots. I don't see the huge drop-off that I expected from this team. The only downside to what I've watched in their 2 games is just Keyshawn Justice. He's just bad shot selection, in his own head, not confident shooting the basketball, yet he's still shooting the basketball. He is yet to complete a field goal inside the arc. He's gone to the line a bunch of times, but that ain't going to do. So I am definitely concerned about him from a personnel perspective, but I like how this freaking Santa Clara team plays. They play fast. Their big men will freaking run the floor like Parker Braun and my fellow Canadian Jaden Bediako. They got experienced guards in Stewart and Marshall. Yeah, you know, I like Santa Clara in this game, but I've learned already early on watching this Ryan Odom Utah State team, don't bet against them even at this number. They destroyed Bradley. They destroyed Utah Valley. You know, 3-point defense was on display in both games. They're inside the arc contesting shots and keeping teams freaking off the offensive glass was fantastic. The one downside to their defensive approach by the rim was the fact that they couldn't stop putting guys on the free throw line. So take away that element, and they played a pretty much flawless defensive game. And this is a team that we expect to be highly efficient and effective offensively. So ton of size with Dan Akin, Trevin Dorius, Taylor Funk, even if you need to put a body in the middle. But they can score on the wing. And when you have 2 guys that are 6'8" and 6'9", you're just going to get a lot of easy shots. And that's what Bairstow and Taylor Funk have done so far. This is a real dangerous team. And I don't want to fucking bet against them, but I'm really tempted to take Santa Clara. All right. Make this short and sweet on Sacramento State and Denver. I will take Denver because I don't believe that Sacramento State at elevation is going to be able to hit all those threes and still keep another team under 60 points. I'm not going to go into it because we don't have time. It's almost 3 o'clock. Weber State and Colorado State. Colorado State without Isaiah Stevens, without Josiah Strong, equals no bet. I'm not betting on Colorado State as an 8 or 8.5 point favorite. No thanks. Don't want that. Illinois versus Monmouth. Monmouth is about to get smoked for the 3rd game. Illinois wins by 30 tonight. I love this play. I bet it twice at 24.5 and 25. Utah Tech and Washington, nothing on it. All right. That is about it from me. And yeah, just going to read the comments from Durko and Arthur. Yeah, I hope that it's Houston first half, Baylor over. Yeah, I like Baylor first half over. Kentucky, Michigan. Not betting it. That's too high profile of the game. Yeah, under with Utah State at 147.5 could make sense. Probably don't see it happening though. All right, that is it for me. It took up 45 minutes of your time. I am out of here, and to Patreon, obviously, you guys will get some picks in a little bit. All right, take care. Thanks for watching, and eat your pastrami.